Thanks for staying with us. Time to turn our attention to harness racing. One of the big names in harness racing's been good enough to come in the studio and give us some of his time and talk about Aaron Main. Aaron, how are you?
Thanks, Phil. Good to be here. Don't know about the big name, but we'll go with that title for now.
All right. We've got the lovely Libby here, and Libby always likes to get in when we're talking about horse racing of some sort.
I feel like I need to get in and translate it into layman's terms for you boys, so
Yeah.
I'm on your team.
Yeah, that's good. 2 against 2.
It helps. It helps. We spoke last week about harness racing in the state, and it's desperately in need of help, really, and we're wondering what the answers might be. And it's simple to put the hand out and say government, but is that the only answer at this stage? It appears to be.
It's we're fighting a bit internally, and it's not good. It's not a good perception for the sport on the outside either. The powers to be are working together. I'm based out at Gawler. We've got a facility just built there. I think the future of racing is there one day. The facility, the track we've got there, in some form. My father's the president of the Gawler Harness Racing Club, and after the road went through, we've got to come to some sort of agreement and get out that way and develop that side as well as keeping Globe Derby a presence, because there's so many trainers in that area.
Yeah, and I think Phil's the expert at this, because building a team, it's not so much harness racing, Phil, I guess.
Harness racing.
But I think with whatever the sport is, to be successful, it needs total buy-in from whether you're a driver, whether you're work on the track, whether you're a strapper, whatever it is. Unless you've got buy-in from everyone, and I know that harness racing hasn't quite got that at the moment.
Can't work.
It can't work, and the answer is, Phil, getting them all together at some stage.
Yeah, and look, it's tricky, I've no doubt. And I've always said the things that get in the way of people's egos. So the CEO, he wants to be in charge, he wants to run the whole thing. The trainers know what's best for the horses. The jockeys know the best way, or the riders, to get them around the track. So everyone needs to be on the same page. As soon as the egos get in the way, which is what it sounds like, that's when you've got all kinds of problems.
Yeah, but I think, there's positives to come out of it. Only last night we attended, the stewards put together a young drivers panel, like with the young drivers, to start educating our young drivers, with apprentices in the gallops. There's probably a lack of young drivers coming through. So I think they're starting to roll out some initiatives. And I don't like to be trying to be too negative, because I want to be in the sport for the rest of my life, and I think we've got to stay positive as a group, as well as working together, and come to some mutual.
Is there a program currently for the young drivers? Because I know SA at the moment, we have the SA Apprentice Academy for gallopers, and it's fantastic. It really gets a lot of kids in, and it trains them. Do you guys have that for your kids?
Last night was the first forum we sort of had. I think there was 10 young drivers there in front of the panel of stewards, and we just went through how to, it's all right for myself. I've been driving for 6 or 7 years, but for guys that are just starting out, how to actually handle yourself in a steward's room, or how do you handle yourself on the track, present to race day. We'll have guest speakers and drivers come along and speak to the group as well. So that's the first initiative that to help the young drivers. We have young drivers series, a bit like apprentice races or whatever. And young drivers can claim back in races as well, but I think on a scale, we've got to work together as an industry, and as well as the young drivers.
And that mentoring process is an important part of it. You being able to call on someone with experience ahead of its need is crucial.
Just little things like, if you're a young rider or a young galloper and you're going to the steward's room, the seniors, we all take that for granted. But for kids, it's extremely intimidating.
Let's talk about your history, Jane. I mean, your mum and dad are heavily involved in it, so you've seen a lot as a young kid growing up. I mean, what's been the biggest changes you've seen in the last 15 years?
Well, I've been born into the sport, and if someone said, why are you in it, you're crazy, or, people from looking from the outside, but once it's in your blood, it's part of you, and as Libby would well know. So, progressing through, I started through the pony trots, worked my way through. Gawler was a big thing to happen to us. When Gawler used to host 25 to 30 meetings a year there, and then when the expressway went straight through the guts, we've had to relocate a facility, and then that put more pressure back on Globe Derby track. Pirrie got more opportunities, but the country tracks shutting down are a big problem. You haven't got your likes of your Cadinas anymore, your Whale, Whaler run 1 or 2 meetings a year so your country tracks where your hobby trainers could go to, really, whereas, you've got your 4 or 5 professional sort of trainers sort of dominate the ranks at times. Your hobby trainers used to be able to go to your country tracks and still win races and make it an income and support a team of horses, which, we're lacking on the horse number front, and that's where it is, but we're never going to get to a stage where those tracks are going to be back open. We've got what we got, and we've got to work with what we got. We've just got to try and get Gawler back running, Victor Harbours and that sort of thing.
All right, you've joined forces with Jake Webster. Tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about that.
Yeah, so about 3 or 4 years ago, or 3 years ago now, we started out with our first horse. We bought one and sent it to Jeffrey Webster's stable, and then we started to buy a couple here. So we bought a horse called Metropolitan. She was our first horse, and she actually won her first start at Port Pirie. We don't pay big money for them. You know, we tend to try and find the cheapies and be able to hopefully improve them. Metropolitan, she went on to win 10 races, so
Wow.
we can sort of blame her for setting it all up and where we are now. You know, so we've sort of gone from, we started with 3, and up until about 3 months ago we had 20 in work there at one
Wow.
stage. We're down to about 12 at the moment.
It's a decent operation, though. And tell us some of the more recent purchases.
Yeah, so we've probably our best purchase. He's still racing around at the moment is Winterfield. You know, he's actually won 18 from 24 for us. We picked him up cheap from Melbourne, and he's been a bit of a surprise package as such. But we won't complain. You know, he's gone on. He's already won 60,000 for us, and he'll get the free for all ranks. That's what he does from there. And more recent purchases, Toulouse-Lautrec. He's been racing around in the free for alls.
yeah.
We bought him early in the year, but then he got a bad virus and was off the scene for some time. So he's only had half a dozen starts for us, but he got better length to come on, Frank. On Saturday night, I drove him there myself. So hopefully, and then also we got a horse that's about to step out next week called Mac Tavish. He was a free-for-aller in Sydney, raced against the top-line horses there. So hopefully he can come and do a job here, and hopefully both of them head to the SA Cup and we can sneak along the fence and run a cheeky race somewhere.
Now,
But
Aaron, you get in with Jake to try and lighten your workload, then he goes and bases himself in Perth, so you're doing all the work. I mean, how's that arrangement work now?
No, so we were both doing it here, and then he went to Melbourne to study for 12 months. It was always on the cards. We knew it was happening. And then now he's just ventured to Perth. But his father, Ron Webster, been good experience for myself as well. He comes up and he's on a daily basis. We've also got a young lady there, Taylor, that she works about 30 hours a week, just chips away, helping us out, So she's a good support, so I can get to work. And then also, it's just a team effort as well as Dad. Peter, he works his team of horses. We all sort of working together.
And I don't think people watching at home who just see you guys on a Saturday night or a midweek or whatever understand
The amount of
of
work.
support that goes on behind the scenes for prize money that might be 11 grand or 8 grand or 2 grand, whatever it is. You've got to feed the family and you've got to feed the horses.
I was laughing
Otherwise-
before because you said just chips away for 30 hours. So I'm going, most people put in 40 and they call it a week. What is a week for an average?
So we start about 5 o'clock in the mornings. I've got to be at work at 7:30. So I do a few 2 or 3 trips in the morning when I can do. Then Jake's dad Ron takes over while I go to work. We're normally done by about mid-morning. But then when we come home, you've got to
Ronnie's
feed
pretty
up.
astute
The
too,
afternoon.
don't worry. He
Ronnie-
doesn't miss much.
No, Ronnie's been in the sport for a long time.
Yeah.
And he knows horse, and we've certainly learned a lot there. But then you come home, you get home from work at 4:35. It
Got
doesn't
afternoon
stop.
feed up and-
Afternoon feed up, and
Stables to pick up.
this time of year is breeding season as well, so we're running mares to start, and weekends are consumed from taking new ones to the paddock and swapping them over. So you sort of don't
Never
have much of a
stops.
life as Olivia
Never
know.
stops.
How do you buy a horse? How do you back your judgment in on a good horse?
Yeah, we've had, Winterfield, for example, he turned out all right. We've had horses that we thought would come over and do a better job than Winterfield and haven't won a race, or won 1 or 2.
All heart.
It is. And, you've got to, when you're only spending that little money, then, you're not spending big dollars. You've got to sort of find the ones that you think you can improve, or with a bit harder work. We work sort of slightly different. We work in the heavy sand with heavy bikes, so you sort of work on fitness. We try and think we can strengthen them up and toughen them. It doesn't work with some. We've gone a bit quieter late. We haven't got a new Winterfield on the scene, that's for sure.
You talk about Winterfield with a real fondness. He's won 18 races for you, 7 in a row.
Yeah.
How far can Winterfield go?
Yeah, the magic 10 would be nice to just put the 10 in a row on his name, but we can't be greedy. He'll get the free-for-all grade. He's only a C2 now. We've been able to place him well with penalty-free races. He's won 4 non-penalty races, with young drivers or interstate drivers coming over for invitation races. That's been the key to him winning as many races as he has so far. He'll get to C6 level, and race the likes of Come On Frank and Toulouse-Lautrec. What he does then is unknown, That stronger racing may make him into a better horse. He may not be able to, he may have to move into state or something like that.
Still moving through his grades.
He's still moving through his grades. He's still got, 2 or 3 easy wins there, comfortable wins, I should say. Nothing's ever easy, but then when he gets there, it's going to be an unknown until we get to that level.
I think what I get out of this which is really encouraging. There's a glint in the eye of a young bloke that actually is passionate for the sport. And I reckon that's missing, you know what I mean? It has been missing for a period of time. And just letting you know that there's a plan in place to introduce young people in who always enter a sport full of enthusiasm. If they can harness that, then as you say, maybe the journey ahead gives us a bit more to look forward to.
Bit
We
hope
put a lot
to
of time into our young horses too. That's what we've sort of backed the race team off a bit in recent
Yeah.
months, because we've got a team of 6 2-year-olds coming through for this season, and then we've also, Hilltop Sophia and Hilltop Rose, they're back in work. They're now 3-year-olds. Hilltop Sophia won the 2-year-old filly of the year only on Sunday. So she won 2 or 3 major races last year here. So we breed. We're focused on breeding. My grandparents put a lot of money and time into breeding. Nice stock for us for coming years. We're always foaling down 3 or 4 mares a year of our own, looking towards the future, and there's always a new crop coming through.
Yeah, well, certainly sitting here, Aaron, we can sense your enthusiasm. You can almost feel it. It makes us want to go out and watch the harness racing. But we've got to go to a break. Hope you get some sleep tonight. Appreciate you coming in. Time for us to take a break. Baseball up next.